Welcome to History for Friday, December 4th. We're going to start with the Midwest region. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. One more time. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. All right, now we're going to move on to the Northeast and the Southeast region. They will be on the quiz. The quiz will be on Wednesday after we get back. Wednesday, December 9th, I believe it is. And then they'll be on the test that we'll have at the end of that week. So, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. Whoops. Let's put another magnet there. All right. West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisiana, Arkansas, Florida. All right, and let's do them one more time. Let's start over here and go over there. Louisiana, Arkansas, Florida, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, West Virginia, Virginia, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. All right, very good. Now, let's continue reading about Sacagawea, and we need to start on page 191. Sacagawea was helpful right away. The men had to carry supplies and look after the boats. The men who had to carry supplies and look after the boats were always hungry. Sacagawea was able to find wild fruits and vegetables. She remembered how to cook these foods. The men were thankful she had joined the group. One day, as they were traveling down the river in what is now the state of Montana, a large windstorm suddenly came up. The boat Sacagawea and her husband were in was almost overturned by a gust of wind. Some of the important supplies on this boat, such as papers, tools, books, and medicine, fell into the water. Sacagawea calmly and quickly gathered most of these important items. The expedition may have been ruined if Sacagawea had not saved them. Because of her quick thinking, Meriwether Lewis named this river the Sacagawea River. The trip was not an easy one. The group found that because of the high altitude, the weather was cold even in summer. Sometimes there was ice and snow. That summer, Sacagawea became very ill. Her illness lasted for almost a month. The men did all they could to help her recover. Finally, she was well enough for the trip to begin again. But their troubles were not over. Next, they were caught by a flash flood and hail. Through all the troubles and trials, the group determined to keep going. As they continued, Sacagawea began to recognize the land, curves in the river, mountains, and much more. She had been to this exact place before. Even though she had been gone for more than 5 years, she remembered this as a place her family had lived. But were they still there? Was anyone from her family or tribe still alive? Turn the page. Home at last. Look, there on the riverbank, I see a woman. Sacagawea's heart probably skipped a beat. Could this be someone from her tribe? Don't be afraid, she yelled out in her language. We come in peace. As the boat moved closer to the woman on the shore, Sacagawea recognized her. She was home. Word of the group's arrival soon made its way to the rest of the tribe. Lewis and Clark met with the Shoshone chief, and Sacagawea joined them to interpret. Tears filled her eyes when she met the chief. He was her brother. Remember, she was the daughter of a chief, so that makes sense that her brother would become chief when he was old enough. Several of her family had survived that attack all those years ago. Now they were reunited, but Sacagawea still had a job to do. She helped the two groups reach an agreement. The Shoshone Indians traded with Lewis and Clark. They now had horses for their journey. Sacagawea said goodbye to her brother as the group left for the next part of their trip. The journey was difficult. There were no paths, and the mountains were steep. Food was running low, yet the group did not turn back or give up. They were determined to complete the journey. All right, so stop and think. What if Lewis and Clark or Sacagawea had given up when something difficult came along? Right, like the overturned canoe, or Sacagawea getting sick, the bad weather. Imagine if they had turned back. What do you think you should do when you come across something that seems hard to do? It could be an arithmetic problem you don't understand, a spelling word you can't remember, or an instrument that seems difficult to play. No matter what challenges you face, try to have the perseverance of Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and Sacagawea. You will find that you can trust God for help in every situation. Read the Bible says, "Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it." 1 Thessalonians 5:24. In other words, God can help you do those things that you find hard. All right, the Pacific Ocean. Once the group had made it over the mountains, they left their horses with another Native American tribe, made 5 canoes, and set out to complete their task of reaching the Pacific Ocean. As they traveled the rivers, Sacagawea's presence often made the Native Americans feel safe. A group of all men would be considered a war tribe, but a group of men led by a woman with a baby could not be harmful. This saved the group from being attacked by unfriendly tribes of Native Americans. On November 7th, 1805, the group finally reached the Pacific Ocean. What a sight! None of these people had ever been this far west. They smelled salty air and heard the waves crash on the shore. While they were camped in the area, a whale even washed up on the beach. When it was time to set up camp for the winter, everyone in the group voted on what would be the best location to build another fort. Lewis and Clark named it Fort Clatsop to honor the Clatsop tribe who lived nearby. The fort was built on higher ground to protect it from flooding. There was lots of wood for building and for fires, and there was plenty of elk for food and clothing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish reading all of this. I think that's where we're supposed to stop, but I'm just going to go ahead and finish reading it, and that way next week we can focus on just reviewing for the quiz and the test. When the group was ready to travel again, Sacagawea continued to find food. Once, when several of the men became ill, she found plants to use for medicine. To cover more area, the men divided into 2 groups. Sacagawea and Pompey went with William Clark's group. When they discovered a large rock formation near what is now Billings, Montana, Mr. Clark climbed the rock and signed his name and the date, July 25th, 1806. He named it Pompey's Tower after Sacagawea's son. It is now called Pompey's Pillar, and the stream nearby is called Pompey's Pillar Creek. All right, so if you ever visit Montana, you can see William Clark's name carved into the rock that is now a national monument, and that is the rock right there in front of you in that picture. And they've done a little close-up so you can see his name. Definitely can't pick it out on that. The trip is done. When Sacagawea's family returned to their home, Lewis and Clark paid her husband $500 for their part in the trip. But Sacagawea's family did not stay in their hometown very long. William Clark loved Little Pomp and missed him very much. He offered the family some land near St. Louis, Missouri to start a farm. He also offered to send Pompey to the best schools in the area. Sacagawea and her husband moved to St. Louis in 1809, but her husband quickly grew tired of farming. He wanted to travel as a fur trader again. They left their son with Mr. Clark and his wife. While away, Sacagawea died after her daughter Lizette was born. William Clark and his family gladly took care of both of Sacagawea's children till they were grown. The journals of Lewis and Clark were not only filled with information about the land and animals, but they were also filled with details about this courageous woman. They faithfully recorded in their journals the brave things Sacagawea did, all while carrying a baby on her back. Mountains and lakes were named in honor of Sacagawea, and a statue was built to honor her in Bismarck, North Dakota. And that would be a picture of the statue, and that would be Sacagawea Peak. That mountain peak is Sacagawea Peak. And now there also today is a Sacagawea coin. So that's what you see at the bottom. More than 200 years later, in the year 2000, a $1 coin was made to honor Sacagawea. Although no actual pictures exist of Sacagawea, 23 artists entered drawings of how they thought she might look. Then, more than 120,000 Americans voted by email to choose the one they liked best. It is this image of a Shoshone woman that honors the memory of a brave Sacagawea who did so much to help explore America. All right, comprehension check. All right, Sacagawea was a part of the what Indian tribe known for raising and taming horses? Shoshone. It looks like Shoshone, but it's pronounced Shoshone. List 3 ways that Sacagawea helped Lewis and Clark and the Corps of Discovery. All right. Hopefully you're thinking about how she knew how to find the wild fruits and vegetables to cook. She knew where to find them and how to cook them. She, when the boat almost tipped over, calmly just started gathering up the items that fell into the water and rescued them. She was their interpreter. She interpreted the language. She helped the two groups reach an agreement as to the trading of the items that they had for horses. Excuse me. She made the other Indian Native American tribes feel safe because it was a woman with a baby. And that way they knew they weren't coming for war. And she also found plants to use for medicine. Oh, excuse me. Had to get a drink there. Sacagawea was happy to find out that the Shoshone chief was her brother. Okay, when she'd been captured, it was her father, and now it was her brother. Give 2 reasons the expedition chose the location to build Fort Clatsop. All right, they built it high to protect it from flooding, and there was also plenty of wood for buildings and for fires, and there was plenty of a certain kind of animal that they used for food and for clothes, plenty of elk. All right, William Clark named a rock formation, what did he name it? Pompey's Tower, and today it's known as Pompey's Pillar, and it was in honor of Sacagawea's son. And who took care of Sacagawea's children after she died? William Clark and his wife. William Clark and his wife. All right, let's review for that quiz that we will be having on Wednesday. Tuesday will be the science test. Wednesday will be this quiz. All right, and then later in the week we'll have the test. I will let you know. Well, actually, I'm pretty sure the test is probably going to be on Wednesday. No, Wednesday's, it'll be on Friday. I'm sorry. The quiz is on Wednesday, so the test will be on Friday of next week. We're going to spend a long time reviewing for it, but maybe we need to after this distance learning. All right. All right, so who was chosen by President Jefferson to explore the territory that he had purchased, the Louisiana Territory? Lewis and Clark. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. Thomas Jefferson called this group of explorers what? The Corps of Discovery. The Corps of Discovery. Remember, Corps is C-O-R-P-S, so it looks like corpse, but it's Corps of Discovery. Sacagawea and Who were asked to guide and interpret for the expedition through the Louisiana Territory. It was Sacagawea and her husband. Sacagawea's tribe, the Shoshone tribe, were known for raising horses. That's where Lewis and Clark were going to get their horses from the Shoshone tribe, Sacagawea's tribe. When the group reached the west coast, they saw which ocean for the very first time? The Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean. And because these Native American tribes saw Sacagawea and her baby on the expedition, they knew that these men had come in peace. They had come in peace. They weren't there to fight. What explorer became governor of the Louisiana Territory? Governor Meriwether Lewis. And what explorer became general of the militia? That would be William Clark. Who is the Shoshone guide and translator for the expedition of the Louisiana Territory? Sacagawea. And what was Clark's nickname for Sacagawea's son? Pompey. Pompey. And then don't forget, you'll need to know Northeast and Southeast states. All right. And don't forget to do reading of your book report book. I forgot to say that at the end of the history yesterday. I hope you still remember to read it. All right? We will be having that book report soon after we get back. So you need to make sure you are reading it. And I have missed you guys and look forward to seeing you guys